Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths in the field of consciousness. Their passion is to support your evolutionary growth and change. Join them as they talk about our individual and collective evolutions, explore what living consciously with energetic awareness means in our daily lives. Access with them a state of grace. There is no time, no space. Feel the warmth and acceptance and opening into infinite possibilities. Combining a broad collection of modalities and personal experiences, they share with humility and humor their appreciation for the body, mind, spirit connections that we call life. Now, here is Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We are your co-hosts. I'm Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner Janet Barrett is coming from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone.
We have a great show for you today. We're talking about unconsciousness in consciousness.
Yeah, what does all that mean?
I don't know.
Yeah, really. What do we mean?
Well, we were looking at, how do we become conscious of unconscious patterns? Here we are doing our best to become more enlightened, aware, to be more conscious, and yet we still have unconsciousness in our life.
That's where it belongs, in our lives.
Yeah, or in our unconscious. No. And then, you were talking, we were, when we were powwowing about the show, you also were talking about the inner reality and what someone else might observe. You were talking about perceptual biases.
Totally. Each of us are in our own world, right? And that's our flavors of our perceptual biases that dictate what the world's going to show up as. And so that inner reality may be very different from the outer reality, what those around us will show us. And that's why we encourage people to work with other people and do things because, we certainly have a certain bias and we think things are a certain way. And then you go to find out, no, they're not. So that's what we're talking about there. Yeah,
the way I'd phrase it is, we're all looking at people through our own lenses, through our own perceptions, right. And it's a little bit like those old-fashioned slides, and so it's like viewing the world through those slides as opposed to what reality is. But we're all doing that too. So
we're all doing it, and it's kind of like. There's an accident or an incident happens and you have 10 people there, for instance, who witness it. And it's the job of the detective to go to each person and filter through their biases, what they were thinking, what they had for breakfast, because what they brought into that moment of awareness is totally dictated by how they've been viewing their world and experiencing it. And yes, we all agree something happened, but everyone's got a little bit different take on that. And it's not only physical directional positioning, but it's also interior positioning.
Right. We interpret things. We each interpret things different. Now, you also were mentioning about, working with someone else. I mean, the benefit of working with someone else, too, is that it can expand your reality because, it's like every person that we encounter, can expand our universe. So, it helps us break down our own biases just by being with someone who has a different mindset. It makes us more open-minded.
And you really want to be respectful of perhaps their biases too, right? Yeah. Because they can be encouraging or disencouraging because their own stuff is operating.
Right. So you can be respectful as long as, as it agrees with you. But screw them if it doesn't agree with you.
Hopefully we're neutral, not attached when we help others, but certainly with ourselves, you can spot where that can kind of come into play. And so we're always kind of challenging ourselves to go, is this my bias speaking or is this my truth? And then we get into that discussion of what's truthful or not truthful.
Yeah, I totally understand. And I myself pride myself on being unbiased, because I'm a Democrat, and and as long as you are too, we're fine.
Yes.
So yes, that was another issue we were brainstorming for today too. Is about control, versus control.
Control.
So, it's like which part of it, because there's a lot of this where you have to just, give it up, let it go, turn it over, surrender or whatever. But what you're really doing is, in terms of dealing with unconscious patterns, but what you're really doing is you're handing it over to the greater aspect of you. So
Aspect of yourself. Yes. Yes. And so it's the difference between that global viewpoint, which we can call consciousness, and then the conscious part of you, right? And we use it, I'm not always crazy about our language. And this is where we kind of get stuck sometimes. I think we don't have enough words, or we don't use the right words well. But control is what you would say there's a couple of different things that I'm noticing about that. Control is the mechanism that's set by your biases, okay? And so it determines what you allow and don't allow in to influence you. That's also the word we're going to probably use for when we talk about being conscious on a day-to-day basis. And so really in those terms, conscious there is about your biases. And then the unconscious really might feel like consciousness because you're not in a control space with that. So we get, a lot of languaging gets in the way, and we can talk about that some more later on about who's in control here. Who's ultimately in control? And is there anyone in control of that ship? I don't know. And then we were also talking about technology, right?
Yes.
And how we have to upgrade ourselves. Technology is showing us more things to be aware of, but it's really about more focus and where you're focusing your time and attention to, I think. So tracking those changes with conscious awareness. So
yeah, I know for myself, it's if any of you remember back to the days of when we only had dial-up internet, and trying to explain dial-up Wi-Fi to dial, it's like, what do you mean? Where are the wires? Where does it go to, and how does it connect? And we're in a higher vibratory level of instantaneous awareness now. So there, you don't need the wires to connect you to this knowledge or information. But to try to explain that to someone, from, 15, 20 years ago, how uncomfortable that would be to be operating without a wire, so to speak.
I think you could still try and explain it. I think
you could try.
Probably,
could try.
I think we have changed. So technology has leapfrogged so quickly, and there's no one piloting that. I mean, honestly, the way people are organizing themselves and their daily lives and how they get information, and do they want information, and it is so quickly spread everywhere. It seems like that that communication brings a lot with it, right? It can be the blessing, it could be the curse, and I don't even think, from a conscious and unconscious viewpoint, that we've reconciled any of that. Definitely, I think we have some challenges. So we want to let everybody know that you can connect with Joan and I off our websites. We've got great offers going. I'm at janetandbeyond.com. And Joan, your website is?
Joan-Newcomb.com. That's NEWCOMB.com.
Yep. So we have those out of the way. So
but they can email us directly at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. We couldn't get the word conversations in there. It was too long for Gmail, so it's just consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. And email us your questions and your suggestions, and we'll respond to them on the air. We also want to remind folks that we're on Facebook. You can go search for Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet and join the group and join the fun. And you can follow us on Twitter at Joan and Janet. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Joan Newcomb, and I will take you to places you've never been before.
Sounds like fun to me.
And we're also on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube as well. We're almost everywhere.
Does anybody know, I guess is the question. Are they conscious of us being anywhere? There you go. There we go. So let's see.
As consciousness, we're everywhere, so that's good.
Yeah, whether you know it or not. See, that's the way it works. And so you just get to presume that everybody knows what you're thinking or hearing you. And that's not always true, is it? So we want to invite you to follow along, and we're going to take a commercial break, and then we'll get right into the rest of it.
Are you ready to take a quantum leap in your life? Joan Newcomb is a conscious mastery coach who empowers you to navigate life from your own inner wisdom using energy techniques. Contact her through her website, joan-newcomb.com, and take conscious mastery of your life today. That's joan-newcomb.com.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you're dealing with? Janet Barrett is a subtle energy empath. Feeling the energies present in your myths and language, she offers a supportive, non-judgmental viewpoint. Experience new ways to relate to and release the energies in those stories. Receive a $25 discount on your first session. Email Janet for an appointment at janetb@janetandbeyond.com. Come explore with Janet. New possibilities for a joy-filled life.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about unconsciousness and consciousness, and we're going to go into heart space.
All right. What do you notice, Joan? What are you conscious of?
I am conscious. I'm conscious of many, many things, but are they relevant?
Oh, isn't that the truth? And that's a great thing. What are we paying attention to, and what is important to focus on and bring our full awareness to? Because life gets kind of busy, doesn't it? And there's lots of stuff we could pay attention to. So there's lots of things we can think about and get distracted by. And if we've got that setup going, because the truth is that's how we've set what we want to experience as consciousness, is how to experience life when there are all those things going on around us, and something to become conscious of is what we're doing there. So, all right, are we ready to drop into heart, do you think?
I think so.
All those people? Okay, all righty. So everybody, the part of you that can pay attention, let it pay attention, and the rest of you, or the rest of you yourself, just let it be busy. It's fine. Because we really want to engage us from a couple of different ways. That it doesn't take anything special to be present. It just takes your willingness to be present. And that there are you in all these different roles you play during your daily life, but you can still always touch in very quickly with just shift of awareness of who you are and what you are and what's important to you. And that's really something we're going to talk about today, and about being unconsciousness and the state of consciousness, and your willingness to engage yourself in tracking what's important to you, and how do you do that. So take this moment, just breathe. There we go. Let your shoulders drop. Roll your neck around so your head kind of rolls around. Today it seems like we just need to open up communication and flow. Take a breath, relax. And just bring your awareness down from, you can feel how busy it is up there and around your eyes and strained they are. And just lower your awareness in that mind's eye. Just bring it down to around heart, level of your heart. There you go. And then just allow yourself to open up to the emotional resonance present. So if you're feeling a certain way, or thinking you're feeling a certain way, just notice it, let it go, let it be okay, let it be all right that you're feeling that. Don't make it anything, just let it become information. All right. And then just continue on outward into the core, the essence of all, where you and I are one. And Joan and I will just enjoy you and you enjoy us as we find this place of just deep relaxation. But it's not where you have to deeply feel the sense of relaxation. You just allow yourself to notice it. Because you might be busy doing something else. So the part of you that's present, just let it be here. And what do you notice, Joan?
Well, let me see. I just noticed how lovely it is to drop into heart space.
Yeah.
And the other thing I noticed is that the things that seem like really serious issues, when you drop into heart space, it just like, poof, just it's like now they're no big deal. They just kind of disintegrate. They dissolve.
It's that easy. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It's that easy. It's that effortless. And, we were touching on the issues of control versus control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, who's in control? And what is consciousness were the two questions that had popped into my head. But when you drop into heart space and you connect to you as consciousness, so you are consciousness, then there's no issues about control or not control, because you're everything. There's no out of control. There's no lack of control. There's nothing controlling. You're all just totally. I say the feeling is being in agreement with whatever's going on. And I also,
that's a sense of well-being you're describing, don't you think?
Yeah.
John?
Yeah. And I realize, though, here I am in this lovely experience of consciousness, and it doesn't address the struggles that we have with unconsciousness, and that, as we go through growth and change, we're continually evolving, and so we're going to stumble upon, stuff, patterns that we want to disintegrate, and stuff like that, and it's like a reference point I have is like the 12 steps, and you start with the first step where you admitted you're powerless, and then you go through all this growth space that comes up to being a level of awareness, and you think you're done, and then you realize you're at a landing. there's another rise of stairs. Well, growth is like that, and it doesn't mean that you haven't gone through this level of evolution, but it opens up to another layer of it. And it can feel really frustrating if you have, spent your life being an avid meditator and focused on your spiritual growth, to uncover yet again, unconscious patterns you weren't conscious of before because they were unconscious. And, and how do you deal with that as consciousness was the question.
All right, so how do we deal? That means we have to do something. So why don't we shift that a little bit, and why don't we just be?
Sure. And I call jacks and twos as wild cards, and you can deal with that any way you want.
Well, maybe it is the wild card. It's the whole deck, and what's nice about the wild card, right, is that it can it becomes more powerful. It is the most powerful because it can step in wherever, or when you lose a card, you can use it to replace that card, or it can do lots of different things. So we're all dealing with a deck, maybe a half dozen, not a full deck.
I was going to say, I don't know if I'm playing with a full deck, but
yeah, really. Well, then, are the odds in your favor then? I don't know.
I think I'm actually playing Old Maid. I'm not saying.
Oh, that's it. Right, yeah, and I love fish. I think fish is fun.
Right
there you go. So everyone, just kind of notice how it is to just be in this place of the stillness and quiet of letting go. And you're letting go, so there's the control thing. You're controlling how you let go, right? Or what you're doing is you're just bringing awareness to being present. And this is the place that you can look at the things that you do. You can see how patterns play out, your behaviors, your habits. And we're inviting ourselves to notice in a way that means, okay, what catches my attention? From this place, we have no agenda. And what is that like to have no agenda? How driven are we to do something or to fix something or to save something or whatever the story is that we tell ourselves? So just notice, and that means it can be a thought, it could be something you see, something you think, just how information is being present to you in this moment and what it's like to just let it go. There's a lot of quiet out there. Mm-hmm. That's nice. Feels like people are humming along. So if there was something that you were unconscious of and you could invite yourself to be conscious of it, what would that be like? There are lots of steps to this kind of work. You know, it's how you engage in your rules that you set up for how you experience your inner worlds and outer worlds. And one is to be able to notice and not feel threatened. And so we're not even engaging that mechanism. But that's what a lot of people would say. Well, I've got to notice something. I got to pay attention. And now I got to get hyper about it. And you can feel how that energy starts to run. And that's a pattern you're in. So we let that go. We're not looking to engage our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems here. We're just looking to just be relaxed and let information show up. So that what has an energy to you from that unconscious place is trying to get your attention. So what would it be like to allow things in your world to get your attention?
You know, what I find is it's a matter of just shining a light on it. Because, you know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to break unconscious patterns, dysfunctional patterns in our life, of things that don't serve us. We're trying to bring things to light to clear it. So it's really a matter of shining a light of our consciousness or awareness on it, which is a lot less effort than we give to it.
Well, I think what I'm noticing is a lot of head stuff right in the moment. And you can see that people might be feeling they need to think that out, right? And this isn't about thinking out anything. This is about being present to letting information show up from within this heart-centered awareness, a unified consciousness. All right? And information is just whatever you notice. If you see something, if you feel something, if you hear something, and you don't have to think it out. You can feel the shift that happens. People all of a sudden in their head, no, that's about interpreting and that's about processing. We're just looking for to be comfortable with something that is not holding your immediate focus to present itself. And what that's like. And we're going to just take these in stages. We're just allowing yourself with the idea that something can show up that doesn't have to send you into any one direction. You do not have to react. You can just allow for information to be present, and you can have the sense of, oh, that's helpful to know. Wow. What would that be like to just notice that? Does that make a difference? Would that make a difference? If I could experience that information in a way that I don't have to do something with it. All I have to do is let it present itself. That's awful powerful. Awful. Isn't that a stupid word to use with how incredible that is? Look at our language. It's just so bizarre to me.
Well, you know, the other thing that I'm tuning into is people's concern that it's going to be uncomfortable. And you know that I don't want to necessarily assign, you know, stronger words than that, but you know, we pretty much would like to do things to avoid being uncomfortable. So the thing I find with this shining the light, relaxing into it, doing this with effortless ease, is that you can have joy with shining light on it. You can have a sense of relief, you know, and that actually the light of reality feels better than the discomfort of being in the fog or being in denial or being, you know, unconscious.
Yeah, because that's when it starts to stack up, right? If you're tracking information that way, where I'm not going to deal with that, I'll deal with it later, or I won't deal with it, and later never comes in that sense. Then you're getting into powerful forces that are creating force, and they become powerful. They might not necessarily, but collectively they start to, you know, there's a lot of energy that's getting sublimated and sublimated and subverted, and you've got something that you've got going there that's going to take your attention in some way, probably when you least expect it or want it. So we're inviting to don't even engage that way about it. But unfortunately, that's the way a lot of people have learned their emotional experience of being is, you know, we don't talk about that. And if you've developed out of a habit of, well, we don't talk about that, then your self-talk is going to be compromised in that. And that'll set up a challenge for you. So just notice how you're resonating with what we're talking about. Because like Joan said, there's lots of different ways that we are all have set up how we experience what we consider our reality to be. So if you've got it set up that you don't want to be uncomfortable and don't want to be in pain and you don't want to be that, then immediately you've attracted that focus to it, right? And it's going to bring that. That's just the way it works. So we just want to go neutral with that. So the idea of being in grace and sitting in its grace is in non-judgment. Just let stuff show up. And you control, see, there it comes. There you control how much you want to experience something. Okay, there's stuff in the back of the head. So I think we've tapped into a lot of emotional stuff, Joan. The stuff that people have kind of put back there, right?
Well, that's so interesting because from my metaphysical training, the back of your head is your genetic programming. So when we were talking about unconscious patterns, you know, and family patterns, you know, that's where you would find it. You know, when you and I are working with conscious technology, you know, we work with miasms and disintegrating miasms going back from generations. But in terms of tension in the back of the head, that, you know, the location is where, you know, people's genetic programming is.
Definitely. And then also another viewpoint with that is we have fight, flight, or freeze. Right. And the freeze mechanism gets back in that lower brain there, old brain there, and emotions get clamped down. And you can't have new energy happening in your prefrontal lobes because all your energy is locked up emotionally back here. So I invite people to just think of a silver thaw and watch the ice start to melt. And just allow whatever is present there, just energetically, just start to allow it to soften and warm up. Okay, there's a breath. That's helpful. Got it. So often emotional stuff definitely can get trapped in those family patterns and way we experience stuff. And emotional resonances are very family driven at times, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. This is the way we feel, and this is how we're going to feel.
Well, and it's amazing how we carry those things into our life and into our workplace, and so you go to the workplace and everybody is acting out their family stuff. It's insane.
Well, and that's what happened. Work becomes family, right? And so then you have your boss, and so that's going to be a parental thing. And then you have your coworkers, and those are the siblings. And so you may be reacting often. This is it. This is the whole point of being conscious. You may be reacting and playing out in patterns that you don't even understand or why you act that way with that person and you're not that way with someone else. And it's because you're unaware and not conscious of those dynamics that you've stepped into and triggered. And so this is why we invite just being able to sit, be in heart space, allow that person's interaction to show up and see how you respond. And then you can start to play from a magical place with that about, oh, well, it's not him, it's who he represents and what face he's wearing, etc. And that thing upsets me. And I never had a way to deal with it before, but I can deal with it now. And we invite all kinds of information to show up. So what would it be like if you dealt easier with your work situation, for instance? Okay, there's a bunch of release.
Yeah. What would it be like if you came to your work situation fully present in the moment? At your current age and actually with a level of, conscious authority or seniority, Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of being authority over anybody else, but just authority over yourself.
Totally. That's what we're shooting for. Oh, goodness, I have a blank space there in the language. Autonomy, is that it? Is that the word I want? Over yourself. Means that you set up your boundaries and you're in charge of what happens. I think that's it.
Yeah. In charge. That's the word I was seeking. When we were talking about control, there's a difference between being in control and in charge. And it's really, or in choice, when you're in choice over your actions and reactions. Mm-hmm. You can even choose your thoughts, you can choose to redirect your thoughts.
Oh, that's an interesting thought right there, isn't it? That you could choose to redirect your thoughts. Because that's often what you're going to hear any of us say who do this kind of work is, don't think that. And, that's such a, it's like, what do you mean? Of course, that's all I can think about. But it's like, no, you get to choose, replace it with something else. Okay, so if you notice you have an ongoing thought about something, that's what happens with music, right? Music will cue us to another state. Often it's a great way to change states, is change the music that you're not hearing but you're listening to. And whether it's, orally or interior orally, change. And what do you do to stop change, these unconscious things? So first thing you have to become aware of is what's unconsciously running you, right? And we were talking about conscious versus unconscious patterns and being conscious of unconscious patterns and how important it is. So you will have to be willing to pay attention. All right, so where's your willingness, everybody? Yeah, able, willing, ready, deserving. Those are all very, very powerful words in consciousness. And life becomes really serious. We deal with real stuff, right? And to not have to be so serious about everything, what would that be like? To have enjoyment, a sense of well-being, in being well, you are paying attention internally to how things motivate you, why you do what you do. Because I guarantee you 99% of what you do, you don't even think about. You don't even know why you respond a certain way. You don't even know what motivates you. I mean, that's pretty much the way we stay stupid. And you can't be aware of everything. But I mean, if we were really checking consciously how many choices you made today so far, I think we'd be blown out of the water. Why you're here, not there? Did you think about that? Or did you automatically do something? And it's the auto that you gotta watch for. That's the unconscious. And then there's the auto underneath that, the thing that's the hidden, that's automatic. And so you have all these different layers to consciousness. Okay, they're relaxing. I can feel it, Joan.
Yes, and the other thing that was occurring to me is as you shine light on these unconscious patterns, as they come to the surface and disintegrate, it actually becomes automatic to be conscious, to act in consciousness. Mm-hmm. So then you're automatically acting with consciousness instead of unconsciously.
Yep. And so we're really kind of talking about rule sets, everybody. We all have rules for how we're going to engage life, and most of them are unconscious. And so what we're doing is we're just bringing awareness to the fact that, okay, if I want to show up more in alignment what I think I am and who I am and feel that I am, because we do it in all those different ways. We're very much what we think we are. And we got to get over the fact that we think our way into all these things, because all you have to do is change how you think about it and become conscious of what you're thinking of, and then it becomes a little easier. There we go. This isn't really organized around being stressed. Right? So that's maybe a rule set you have there, that to look do inner work is stressful. No, what if it wasn't? So check and see how you feel about that. We all have different levels and capacities to rationalize and reason and feel and think and assume and all that. And what if you are much more than you think you are? What if you're much more than you feel you are? And what if you're much more than you're conscious of? And if you kind of start to incorporate that into your rule sets, those underlying core principles that we all operate out of, there's nothing to be afraid of. And it can be death, and there's nothing to be afraid of. Right? And we have some people, they groove on that challenge. They're adrenaline junkies, or they are people that deal with those kind of situations daily, on a daily basis, or they're willing to engage life on the daily basis because of their caring or their sharing or their support or whatever. And we're constantly making choices. And what if it was okay to make a different choice? And what if it was okay about the choice that you made? It's really taking all how you feel about what you feel out of agenda, out of circulation. What do you notice, Joan?
Well, I'm noticing a lot of people wanting to work with this out of their body. So it's like their body wanting to, it's time for an afternoon nap, And that's okay too, because you're still operating as consciousness. Sometimes we do need to like take a nap or sleep on it, and process it outside of the body, but we can bring the awareness back in. I know what you were saying too. You talking, adrenaline junkies. That's a family pattern, is to be dramatic is a family pattern. You'll find, dysfunctional family patterns where it's very high volume and argumentative or theatrical. And, you don't have to react dramatically to anything, even if it seems dramatic. Because in that reacting, you're actually doing an unconscious pattern.
Definitely. I love how you mentioned sleep. Is that what you said? Sleep? Yeah, we want to go to sleep. Okay. And that's an area, of unconsciousness to really explore. I know for a lot of my clients and even in myself, we work, and I know definitely do this. We do different kind of work when we're unconscious, when we call it sleep. Okay. We call it sleep. And I would have to say that most of us, when we're awake, are asleep. Okay. And this is what the whole conversation is about, being awake when you are awake and being awake when you're sleeping. You're still at some level of awareness that's operating. And so a lot of people don't do their stuff during the day. They save it up for when the control mechanisms relax, and then they have tumultuous night times. And so they don't want to sleep. They don't want to be awake, or they want to be awake because they don't have to deal with this stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of energy that goes on around our sleep states and what we do. And maybe
I talk about that as being working on the astral plane. And so, it's like, if we can't handle it while we're awake, we'll take it out into the astral plane and work it out. And that's when you've got tumultuous nights, is because you've saved it all up for then. or there's also, we have our patterns where it wasn't safe to leave your body, so it's hard to go to sleep. Or, this happens a lot. I would have people who were in recovery in my meditation classes, and they wouldn't want to do a technique which was called corner of the room, which was consciously going to the corner of the room. And that's because they so loved the technique of grounding and being in their body that leaving it reminded them of when they got high, and it freaked them out. As opposed to that, no, you can leave and come back again, and it's all a good thing.
All references and how people hold information. Well, it looks like it's getting close for us to come back. So everybody, just notice what you're noticing. Allow yourself to start pulling your awareness back into yourself in a little different way, because we don't want to come back and be the same. We want to bring this awareness that we've gained out there, whether it was just the 15-minute rest break or whether you notice some things that are different now. Come back, notice your emotional terrain, see how that's feeling. Does it feel the same? It has to feel a little different. I know it does. And you have to allow yourself to feel a little different. And we did have comment from one person who wrote, she says, I don't like listening to your show because it's too calm. And we all cracked up about that, because how tumultuous is life when you experience a little bit of calm. So just notice that. Notice your willingness to experience some calm in your life. Come back and check your heart out. Still beating. Kind of maybe a little more restful, a little more slow down. And then bring your awareness back into being in today. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Now, this is going on whether you're holding conscious awareness of it or not. You are in that place. You are in that space. And, maybe, okay, this is what's coming to mind is the roles people play. So here's the thought for you. How many roles do you play? Just whatever number comes to mind. It might be 5, it might be 3,000. Doesn't really matter. And we're going to send a couple of your roles. We're going to leave them down there in heart space. So what would it be like if you as a mother, for instance, were just in your heart space, the rest of the day. Anytime you had something to do with mothering, there you were, just in heart space. What would that be like? Or maybe what other kind of roles do we play? I don't know, maybe lover. There you go. So the part of you that's the lover, maybe they're just in heart space. And I think there's just some different ways. We all play different roles. It's all us. So give those parts of yourself a rest and just leave them in there, in the stillness and the calmness, and in the kind of feels like those immersion tanks, doesn't it, Joan? You know, I mean,
yes, it does. It does.
Saltwater immersion.
That flotation thing, right?
Flotation tank. There you go, everybody. So the part of you that's just humming on the flotation tank. And if you have claustrophobia, you don't have to go to it that way. Just picture yourself on the beach, on the board, just in the sunshine. It's all the same thing. All right. Let's see how long this lasts for the rest of your day. See? Yeah, that's kind of a nice idea. And once again, this is the only show on the air. When you hear the stillness, you're really resonating in a different place. Oh, that feels nice. Yeah, we got some lullabies cranking out there. I find myself falling over in my seat here.
Yes. Well, so let's invite everyone to hold this heart space as we go to commercial break. And we have a lot more to cover. Even though we're out of being in the heart, we're still in that resonance of it. We're still floating in that lovely feeling. So float in that lovely feeling while we go to a commercial break, and come on back because we got more to talk about.
Are you ready to take a quantum leap in your life? Joan Newcomb is a conscious mastery coach who empowers you to navigate life from your own inner wisdom using energy techniques. Contact her through her website, joan-newcomb.com, and take conscious mastery of your life today. That's joan-newcomb.com.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you're dealing with? Janet Barrett is a subtle energy empath. Feeling the energies present in your myths and language, she offers a supportive, non-judgmental viewpoint. Experience new ways to relate to and release the energies in those stories. Receive a $25 discount on your first session. Email Janet for an appointment at janetb@janetandbeyond.com. Come explore with Janet. New possibilities for a joy-filled life.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm Joan, here with Janet, and we have been talking about unconsciousness and consciousness. And Janet and I are leading edge creators in the field of consciousness technology, so we've also been giving suggestions about how to do that too.
The whole idea that we are unconscious and conscious. The whole idea, I guess, is too big to think about, right? The whole idea. So all we can do is our part of unconsciousness. And we have to be okay with being unconscious. We have to be okay with being consciousness showing up this way. We can't track ourselves, or we can track ourselves. I mean, you can go so many different ways with this, don't you think?
Well, actually, what I went unconscious and forgot to mention was that the part of us that is unconscious is the little body personality aspect of us that is, operating in this time and space. And the greater aspect of us is consciousness. And so as consciousness, we're always aware, 24/7. We already know everything. As consciousness, it's just if we're looking at the issue of unconscious patterns, if we're worried about it, that's the little aspect of us. It's like the tiny will versus the greater will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, if you've been concerned about this, you can relax, because you don't feel bad, don't feel guilty of that you have, that you've been unconscious. It's only been this aspect of you in this time and space which feels like everything, but really no, it's just you in this time and space. But there's a greater part of you that's infinitely wise, that knows everything without being a know-it-all. And so really it's all okay. We're here for this process of creating and uncreating.
Well, and that's what you and I are always looking to foster with people, and why we say the part of you that's aware is aware. The part of you that's busy doing something else is busy doing something else, with the awareness that this part of awareness is getting it. And, it kind of seems like word game, mind games, and it all is, because it's how we structure things. And there's no fear that you're going to miss something. The only fear is that you think you're going to miss something, when in reality, you're just not going to have conscious awareness that you know it. And that's it. We are conscious, whatever we consider as conscious, is a control. That's the control, and it's the systems organizer, and everything has to fall within belief systems. And I want to know what I believe, and that control. So what we're looking for is this control that really has a sense of flow to it, that really says, oh, okay, I can experience something without the rest of me having to fall apart and freeze up or seize up. And okay, so things can come in, right? And I can check them out. And that's where, oh yeah, when we talked about truth in the very beginning, is what is truthful? What does that mean to each of us? And it's really probably just the moment of where something resonates within us. And, oh, that's my truth. And that's my truth in this moment. It is not always that moment, though, when you recall it, when you experience it again. It has to be fresh, because as you've matured, as innocence gains its experience, the information, that is soft. That is not hard, stuck, and rigid. And that's what happens when that judgment gets made, right? So we're going back to the place where, oh, okay, different things are still possible.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to touch back on when you were saying about people concerned that they missed something. We live in a multiverse, and we have, parallel lives. So, anytime that you made a choice to go left and went on in that trajectory, there's an aspect of you that went right and experienced a whole different reality. So, if you broke up with that person, there's an aspect of you that didn't. If you, didn't get to go to Paris for your junior year abroad, there's an aspect of you that did, is now living in Paris. And so you don't actually miss out on anything. You're experiencing the line of connection, the trajectory, the path that you're on now. But there was multiple paths that you are simultaneously on, as well as multiple opportunities out in front of you. And as consciousness, you encompass all of that. It's too much to comprehend in our little tiny pea brains, but as consciousness, you are simultaneously experiencing all of that. And so you haven't missed anything. You're just, you're taking the scenic route right now.
And there's that great word, aspect, where earlier I used the word roles, the roles we play. It's the aspects of ourselves that we're in, and great remembrance of that. All right, so is it time to wrap it up? Are we there yet?
Yeah, we're sliding into home. We just want to remind folks about our websites. And yours is?
Janet, let me see, janetandbeyond.com. And it's all one word spelled out.
Mine is joan-newcomb.com. You can find us on Facebook, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. You can follow us on Twitter at Joan and Janet. You can follow me on Twitter at Joan Newcomb. And you can also find us on YouTube, Conscious Conversations.
And we also have blogs running on BBS network here that you can give us feedback on. Also on our website, at the Facebook, we tend to post those things. So we enjoy hearing back from you about anything that we might write or communicate, and things that you'd like us to maybe explore for you, or puzzling you, or that you're conscious of.
Yes, you can email us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. So we love hearing from you. And thank you so much for listening today. You've been helping to co-create the reality here collectively, so it doesn't matter whether you're listening to us live or listening to us in the future. This aspect of yourself is here now helping to create this reality. And you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett. And it was lovely to be with you today.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Thanks so much for helping to co-create the show. No matter whether you're tuning in live or listening on demand, you energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next Wednesday for another great show at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and 10 p.m. UTC.